All right. Well, we've talked a lot about Yamamoto and the Phillies, but also with Yamamoto, of course, he's also in the mix for a team like the Yankees, who are co-favorites. So I feel like it's only fitting that our guest for today is someone that can speak on behalf of what it's like to live up in New York and be a Yankees fan and follow the Yankees. We've got Justin Perri. They're going to be joining us here from New York. Justin Perri, who works as a content lead at ShotQuality Bets, also works with PitcherList as a fantasy baseball writer. Justin does a phenomenal job with all the work that he does across baseball coverage, and probably can give us a little bit more insight on what it's like up in New York right now, especially around the excitement of possibly landing Yamamoto and then the excitement of Juan Soto. So Justin Perri, let's welcome you on in, buddy, as we have a chance to have you join us. Nice to have you here on PHLY Phillies podcast, Justin.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. Like you said, I'm a New Yorker, but actually my little sister lives down in Philly, so I have a lot of appreciation for the city, come down a lot. Excited to chat maybe a little baseball, and yeah, I do a lot of college basketball as well.
Yeah, no problem. Listen, we are all still, even despite the pandemic putting us in such a virtual world, I feel like we all still had the issue of forgetting to unmute at times. It happens to the best of us.
Well, one of the politicians forgot to mute himself when going to the bathroom the other day. Did you see that?
No.
It was like the Naked Gun. You could hear him at the urinal. He forgot to mute himself going to the bathroom. He left the floor. So at least you didn't do that, Justin.
I was gonna say, I think it could be worse. It could definitely be worse.
Absolutely.
You know, I always get nervous about that when I'm virtual, that like I'm actually gonna turn the camera on or unmute at the wrong time, because you just never know. You just never know. All right, I know we're working on getting your volume turned up for those in the chat that maybe are feeling like you can't hear him as well. But listen, Justin, we've been talking about Yamamoto on the show because, of course, reports have come out that Yamamoto has 7 teams that are still in the mix for Yamamoto. Excitedly here in Philly, the Phillies were included, but the Dodgers are co-favorites and none other than the Yankees. Curious to know your thoughts on the Yankees' chances of being able to land Yamamoto.
Well, I tried to turn up my mic volume, so hopefully that's a little better for people.
Yeah, now you sound great.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so look, being a Yankee fan, landing Juan Soto, now being in the mix for Yamamoto, it definitely feels like, you know, maybe they're actually going to start spending some of Hal's money up here in New York. Really excited about it. I think they have a really great pitch. I was listening to what you guys were saying, people coming into meetings, being a big part of it. The culture here in New York has definitely been very accepting of Japanese baseball stars. Of course, Hideki Matsui being like one of the first real ones here in this market to, you know, bring home a World Series and be so celebrated here in the city. I think he'll probably be a big part of our pitch as well. Tanaka had an awesome career. And I think, you know, who doesn't want to join the superstar trio with Judge, Cole, and now Juan Soto? So I think there's going to be a big push. The Yankees need pitching. We've seen it. It's what derailed them in past seasons. They couldn't even get out the gate with Montas. Nestor Cortez couldn't stay healthy. It's really what's plagued them down, injuries. So the more depth that we can get here in the Yankees dugout, the better.
Yeah, so Justin, I'm curious. I have a couple friends that are diehard Mets and Yankees friends from college, and they're always going back and forth. And obviously, Steve Cohen, when he takes over the Mets, kind of elevates them to a more near Yankees expenditure level. Are they viewed crosstown rivals as now like, you know, a team that's going to compete with every free agent, or are they still the Mets?
Well, you know, I think they're definitely competitors in the market now, and they've like had more success recently. So I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke. The Yankees have a lot to still work on, and they need to get past like first, second round in the playoffs before we can start reclaiming some crown and start putting some more rings on that count. I feel like people have been saying 27 for my whole life. It kind of loses its shine, right? But yeah, I think this is a really strong Mets team. The spending has been really aggressive. I think the moves letting, you know, DeGrom and Scherzer both go at the trade deadline is very interesting and shows that they understand like what win now needs to be. They cut their losses. They're going to be right back in it this season. I think they, you know, are showing they have no problem having one of the highest spending payrolls in the big leagues. And Cohen's probably been a big part of what's pushed, you know, the Dodgers to make this very, you know, eye-opening deal with the deferral, and the Yankees spending big, hopefully to retain Juan Soto. They're going to have to, or what is this move really about? I think it's going to be an interesting market. Prices are just going up, and teams are going to need to be very aggressive to compete with what the Dodgers are doing, what the Braves have for almost nothing, the way the Rays can bring in a team with no money. It's crazy. And the Orioles set up too. So there's a lot of strong teams building really good cores. You're going to have to be aggressive to sort of keep up with the homegrown talent in some of these places.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we were talking about the other day about the top trios. Actually, it was yesterday, but that feels like it was so long ago. Top trios across Major League Baseball right now, and it's wild and exciting to see the names that are leading each club. For the Yankees specifically, now with acquiring Juan Soto and having him alongside guys like Judge and Torres. Juan Soto, huge acquisition for the Yankees. But as you alluded to, Juan Soto, when being asked about the future with the Yankees, kind of was tiptoeing around past the 1-year deal of an extension and remaining with the Yankees. I'm going to first, before we even get to that part, I'm curious to know your thoughts and just the excitement after, officially bringing in Juan Soto. But then maybe has that excitement teetered off a bit, hearing his comments around the 1 year and the way he kind of like tiptoed around the future with New York?
I think that's pretty normal. I don't think he's going to be the type who's going to comment on it. He'll come in and go to work. This is a big season for him. I don't think, the excitement has teetered. We're super excited to have like one of the most competitive lineups in the big leagues, just, on the backs of guys like Judge and Soto. You should hopefully get to like 80 combined home runs. That would be really nice. I think that's a pretty safe floor. 35, 45 from one or the other should come in. Hopefully Rizzo can get healthy. There's a lot of excitement. I've actually bumped into Anthony Rizzo on my block a few times, so big fan of him. He lives in the neighborhood. I live on the Upper East Side. Yeah, basically neighbors. He wears his like Dolphins hoodie around the bright neon colors. He's unmissable. But no, I think this is going to be a really exciting season. I think there's a lot of excitement. People just want to see these guys hit and rake. Obviously, losing Aaron Judge last year to the fence at Dodger Stadium was not very fun. There's a lot of, I guess, I think people really had a lot of expectations. They were leaders in the market to be like preseason favorites to make the World Series, and they'll be up there again. Of course, there's a little bit more competition now, but there's a lot of reason to believe that if we can get those elite ratios from Juan Soto, put him next to Judge, hopefully not everybody's made of glass this season. The Yankees will be a dangerous team if they're healthy come, for October.
So, Justin, I'm curious your thoughts on this because you're a Yankees fan. We're Phillies fans. We are major market clubs with big money to spend. The Ohtani deal and the way it was kind of deferred is only something that big market clubs with big market TV deals can pull off. It's kind of a loophole in the competitive balance tax a little bit, even though they're counted against the tax. They still defer all the payments. Is this a problem for Major League Baseball where they're only going to have, basically 6 to 8 teams more or less every year with a crack at it? Obviously, you have your Rays and Orioles that are developing players at an excellent rate, but can they actually get it done? Or do you believe that Major League Baseball is now pretty much just a 6 to 8 market club kind of thing?
It's probably always going to feel that way in terms of spending. The deferrals have been around for a long time. Players get paid well after they're done playing a lot. It's just not very often that we hear about it happening when they sign. Ohtani, I think, is the most unique part about this because he has this, he's the face of the game in multiple countries, right? So he has massive endorsements that no other player can really dream of right now. Yeah, so he's essentially going to make his salary on endorsements. He can defer it. He can, set himself up for, maybe maneuvering taxes and getting more out of that $60-something million a year later in his life. And it's something I think he specifically is able to do. We don't see the other players in baseball doing it. You don't see Acuna taking this. Maybe later in his career they restructure. You'll see that potentially as these numbers start to rise later in these guys' contracts when they sign big deals. That you could see them continue to defer, and we hear about that. But it's a little more swept under the rug. So I don't think this is really too much of an alarm. I think it's just more out there than what we're used to. So I think it's the same playing field. I wouldn't be shocked to see, Aaron Judge money get deferred down the road. I would expect the Yankees to do that if they want to remain competitive in years 6, 7, 8. There's a lot of money. So it's pretty normal. I think that we'll see the same big teams continue to spend, the same teams sort of stay on the low end, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We've seen small teams upset some really hot big teams out the gate. The Braves, were expected to win the whole thing. Everyone was talking about it,
They
myself
just can't
included.
get past the Phillies. It's a problem for
Right.
them.
I know. So it's not always about like necessarily the best roster. It's everything coming together at once. And, championships are just as much about performing at your peak as well as like getting lucky and hoping that your opponent isn't too.
That's a great point. That's why I'm not always in and sold on superstar teams and super teams that just, bring in all the big name players and expect they're going to automatically win a title. With that, Shohei Ohtani, as you're talking about, continues breaking some records. Fanatics did release that he became the had the new record for breaking jersey sales in the first 48 hours, passing Messi sales when he joined Inter Miami. And so Shohei Ohtani, ahead of getting his official introduction with a press conference, it's going to happen later today at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. on the West Coast, where they're going to officially introduce him at Dodger Stadium. Already has jersey sales through the roof, which is why you're able to get those endorsements, why he's able to have, the ability to defer his contract. And with that, the Dodgers now, as we were talking about earlier, still actively pursuing not only Yamamoto, but someone like Tyler Glass now. They've been rumored to, have a deal that's possibly close to being signed to bring in Glass now and Margot. As we talk about super teams, are the Dodgers really going to be a super team and pull this off? Do you think that we're going to see them, if not Yamamoto to the Yankees, do you think we're going to see the Dodgers land Yamamoto and others and become a true super team in that sense?
I don't really know. I think they're going to do something crazy. And of course, Randy Arozarena rumored to be potentially a part of that deal. Of course, no final details, but very crazy to think about building a team with those names we're talking about on top of, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. They're going to get Walker Buehler back, Tony Gonsolin. Like these guys, they have so much talent. So again, injuries have sort of been the name of the game in baseball. Who can be healthy, who can get hot. And I think the Dodgers will continue to stack talent to try to make sure that they're in a good place. I mean, they didn't have essentially their ace in Buehler, who missed most of this, if not all of the season, I think. Right. So they're hoping he's fully ready to go, leading the staff with, Ohtani not pitching this year. He'll be back on the mound hopefully next season, but he'll just be DHing. So there's going to be very interesting to see how the Dodgers handle all this. Of course, not playing the field is a super unique challenge. And you also already have guys who are, a little bit on the older side needing rest. It's going to be super interesting to see how they pull this roster construction off. I would expect a good amount of rest days and rotations. It's going to be fun. I think they're still going to be that super team. They'll make a signing. They'll be insane. The win total is sitting at like 102, 103, which means there's a very realistic chance they very quickly can get past like 95 wins before you know it. They're going to be dominant. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I even as a Phillies fan, I'm kind of dying to check them out when they're on national TV every time, because it is good for the sport. As much as we hate super teams, it does put eyeballs on the TV sets, and that's all Rob Manfred and company care about. Now, I think Major League Baseball, Justin, last one from me, I think they did something really cool yesterday in announcing the spring breakout game, which is coming up in March, which is going to put the club's top prospects on a bigger stage and kind of spring training there. And I think it's something that Major League Baseball has been a little slow to come around to get, your everyday fan invested more in prospects around the league and grow these names and faces. What are your thoughts on the spring breakout game that was announced yesterday? I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. My new favorite. I've been like a fantasy baseball guy since I was in middle school. It was like the first way I got into like sports gaming. It's paved the way for me to become like an analyst. So baseball was always like my first love, and fantasy at its core. So I do a lot of dynasty now that I've been around it for like 15 years. And so focusing in on these players, understanding the guys coming up, I think there's so much anticipation in like certain fandoms team to team. Like, the Baltimore Orioles have been sitting here waiting for this hot pot of rookies to kind of come up. And now you're seeing them here. And I do think baseball has a really good chance to, highlight these future stars early on and start to build excitement around them. The Rays have Junior Caminero coming up now. There's like a lot of big names that have, come up to the big leagues and tried it out. And we saw like Grayson Rodriguez and, Fat for the Diamondbacks was a huge part of their run.
I want to see Jackson Holiday play.
Yeah, Holiday's on his way up. I mean, there are so many incredible names bubbling up in the minors that I think it's it's fun just to track them and see what they're doing and get excited about when they're going to get the call, and rosters start to open. It's a big part of the game, and I think they can make a good show out of it. We've seen G League Unite for the NBA, for example, like that type of stuff is honestly pretty popular and gives more shine to these players, and I think will continue to pave the way for them to get compensated better. It's been something that the MLB has drastically needed to continue to work on, and they've made some steps, but putting them in the spotlight, letting them drive some revenue, I think is going to be good for everybody.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's great for baseball. I mean, not only are we having the opportunity to talk about the Dodgers potentially forming a super team with bringing in, I know Josh Hader, Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, Margot, all these different names we've been hearing that they're still actively pursuing. Then on the other side, in terms of the next generation and the youth, to hear about this, incredible opportunity for this 4-day event, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So we appreciate you, Justin, for taking time to join us from New York and being able to shine a light on the Yankees and just your thoughts around the league in general. It's been a pleasure having you here to be able to join us here on PHLY Phillies podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Literally, have me back anytime. I'll make sure my mic's on when I get on stage, and I appreciate it.
Just don't go to the bathroom with it still on.
Look, least I can do. Again, really appreciate the time. Really fun coming on, and look forward to hearing from you guys soon.
Thanks a lot, Justin.
For sure. We'll definitely have you back on, Justin.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Of course.
You guys be sure to give Justin a follow. Justin does a great job, as he mentioned. He's been heavily in the fantasy baseball world and fantasy sports world.
I love fantasy baseball.
Yeah, as he mentioned, since middle school, and he does a great job working with ShotQuality bets as a content lead, but also with PitcherList as a fantasy baseball writer. You can follow him at Justin Perri, Perri is how he spells Perry, 8 on Twitter.
We all silly like the mayor.